by Jura Sports Nutrition. Train harder, race faster, recover quicker with Endura.
What's the control?
The Ironman 70.3 Geelong Triathlon brings together the best of both worlds in triathlon. The race is the meeting point between a full Ironman and the Olympic distance race. It's a melting pot of speed and endurance. For the women, Olympic bronze medalist Emma Moffat will be flying the flag. In the men's race, it's triple Hawaiian Ironman winner Craig Alexander. But they're just half the story. There are over 1,500 age group competitors, all with their own personal challenges. Debbie and Hartley West prove that a couple that races together stays together. While Kylie Jones has twice beaten breast cancer and is ready to take whatever Geelong throws at her. The wind is up and the temperature is rising. Hello and welcome to the Ironman 70.3 Geelong Triathlon. I'm Matt Keenan, joined by Mitch Anderson. Mitch, these weather conditions today will be tough.
Look, it's reminiscent of Kona. It's hot and windy today. It's going to be really tough for all the competitors.
It's not just about the elites in this event. In the few days leading up to the big one with the stars of the sport, we've seen some of the kids get introduced to triathlon for the first time.
Yeah, great feel here yesterday. Great community vibe. Everyone getting involved.
And we've got 30 positions up for grabs for the World Championships here. So when we talk about the stars, one of them, Emma Moffat. She's a bronze medalist at the Olympic Games, but for her, this is an important event.
Absolutely. Look, she's going for a big year this year for Commonwealth Games and then to Mont Tremblant for the Ironman 70.3 World Championships. Good luck to her.
As for the men, the favourite, the man to beat, will be Craig Alexander. He's won Kona, the big one, Hawaii 3 times. Can he be beaten today?
Look, he'll be very familiar with these conditions, so he can certainly be beaten today. There's a really stellar field here in Geelong.
There is a strong field, so let's go down and meet a few of the contenders.
How are you feeling pre-race?
Yeah, good. You know, I think it's early in the season, but it's early for everybody, and I'm in pretty good shape. So, you know, just like Auckland, it's another competitive field. I think, you know, a lot of the boys have got themselves in great shape early because there's points up for grabs, and, you know, a lot of people are trying to step up in distance and go to Mont Tremblant and also Kona this year. So it'll be a very competitive race.
And this is your first step in the road to Mont Tremblant for the year and Commonwealth Games. Big step for you?
Yeah, definitely. I started last year with this race as well, so hopefully I can have as much success as I did last year. So, for me, it's about building a big base, but then at the end of this year, I've also got that added goal of wanting to go to Worlds in Mont Tremblant.
And it's 30 degrees. How does that change your race?
Yeah, look, I think a lot of guys are going to blow, especially in the closing stages of the bike, and the run's going to hurt because it's very hot and windy. So who knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be a very fast race, and looking forward to getting out there and getting amongst it.
Now that we've met some of the favourites, let's take a look at the course that challenges them. It's the half Ironman distance, kicking off with a 1.9 kilometre swim through Corio Bay. And Mitch Anderson, today the conditions can be described as choppy.
Absolutely, it's abysmal conditions for open water swimming, which will be a huge advantage for the ITU style races.
It's then out onto the bike. It's 90 kilometres. There's a few turns to contend with, which psychologically will break things up, but a lot of wind on the course. Then the run at 21.1 kilometres to finish with.
Yeah, look, some light and shade, and then obviously, again at the end, really difficult headwind sections.
Just about ready for a start. Mitch Anderson, the final nervous moments before we get underway.
Yes, look, warm-up is critical here, getting the blood into the upper limbs, ready for the swim leg.
And they make a start. How important is it to get a good spot onto the beach so you've got clear water in front of you?
Look, yeah, you need to line yourself up with the right can. Obviously, the can's on the right. The ITU guys have a real advantage here. It's a non-wetsuit swim, so I think the long course guys will really struggle today.
Good conditions for the Olympic distance competitors. The women 1 minute away from starting. Emma Moffat, she is the unbackable favourite. And they get underway. You spoke a moment ago about the ITU athletes. The green colours, Emma Moffat. Well, that sums her up. She's been world champion twice in that distance.
The ITU athletes tend to be your natural swimmers, and that's in part because they've trained the house down swimming up to 30 or 40 kilometres a week to get their 1.5 kilometre swim times down close to 16 or 17 minutes.
Well, this one is 1.9 kilometres. It's basically straight out into the bay. They then make the diagonal turn to come back in towards the beach. We spoke about it earlier. The choppiness of the weather conditions, the water, it will make it tough and good for the strong swimmers. Look how rough it is.
Yeah, you can really see this is what we call short chop. That means athletes need to really shorten up their stroke counts increase. And you can see Clayton Patel has taken the lead, and he's still maintaining beautiful form out the front, even though, like I said, he doesn't have a wetsuit on.
The conditions are tough, even for the most experienced man in the race, Craig Alexander.
It was a tough first leg of the swim because we were swimming to a very tough wind chop, but I was where I needed to be, and I was hanging on for dear life. I knew the importance of sticking with the leaders.
Another one of the strong swimmers, James Sears, he's towards the front. He's another athlete that in that Olympic distance, normally he leads out of the swim, he's close on the bike, but he fades in the run.
Yeah, look, again, another ITU-style athlete, and you expect to see most of the top 10 swimmers to be the ITU athletes, and again, you see Emma Moffat maintaining a really high stroke rate in the difficult conditions. You'd also try and pick the right side to breathe on so you're not gathering a mouthful of water.
For Emma Moffat, the swim is all important in laying down the foundations for her race.
During the swim, I'm thinking I want to get as much gap as I can on these girls during the swim, so I'm swimming as hard as I can and, trying to create that time before I get onto the bike.
Emma Moffat extending her lead. This is Kim Jenke, who sits in second position for the women, but she's already giving a lot of distance.
Yeah, look, you can really tell the difference, Matt, between the elite swimmers and the long course swimmers. And, Jenke's just not pulling herself through the water anywhere near as efficiently as our leader, Emma Moffat.
The leading three men, Fatal, Atkinson and Sear. Two athletes in second and third spot, more accustomed to the shorter distance. Clayton Fatal, though, he likes the longer course.
Look, he's fantastic, and you can just see him. He'll go around this boy, and he just doesn't even change stroke, perfectly kicking around there, and Atkinson sitting neatly, getting a draft on his feet.
The three leaders, they're approaching transition, and the pre-race favourite, Craig Alexander, is only 70 metres or so off the pace. That's nothing to be concerned about.
That's absolutely right, Matt. It equates to less than a minute by the time he hits dry land. We saw Emma Moffat there and Kim Jenke in second place with a lot of ground to make up. She's going to be 3 minutes down out of the water.
And another minute further back is Nawata, the experienced Japanese competitor. She's been to every Olympics that the triathlon has been contested, and she's coached by the famous triathlon coach, the father of Miles Stewart.
That's right, that's Cole Stewart, and you can see here Clayton Patel porpoising, and he actually is trying to get the swim prime. There'll be something in it from his sponsors, so he will be absolutely racing to the swim line.
Patel leads out, he gets a little bit of a wash down to take the seawater off. It's Courtney Atkinson in second position, followed by James Sear. How important is the transition, Mitch, to take a look around and assess the condition of your competitors?
Look, you can do that, but what's more important is following your priorities, which is getting the right kit on, getting your helmet on, getting your glasses on, and making sure you get your bike cleanly off the rack. They're very organised in transition.
That was a quick transition for Clayton Fatel, a very calm transition as well. There goes James Sear, he's the second out. Courtney Atkinson taking a little bit longer, but in no great rush.
Any time that you're stationary is wasted time. These athletes know that. There you go. Now he's having a head check once he's actually done his transition.
So he's got the momentum up first. Now Clayton Fatel, a man of great experience, he assesses the situation. Brad Carterfeld is in, and here comes Craig Alexander.
That's right. He's got a minute to make up. He won't be panicking. He's a guy who's got so much experience, but he's going to get out on the road. He's getting his glasses and helmet on, and then chasing.
Well, one woman who will have a lot of time when she gets in a transition is Emma Moffat. That's not another one of her rivals in front of her. Moffat is catching some of the men.
And you can just see there that Tim Reed has dropped off a water bottle on a day like today, that could be a critical mistake.
Should he have turned around and collected it, as we see, by contrast, how calm Craig Alexander is?
Oh, look, I think that, it's just showing the old head versus the young head there, and Alexander not missing a thing in transition.
Here comes Emma Moffat. She'll have transitioned to herself. No point looking over the shoulder, Emma. They're a long way behind. In fact, her advantage coming out of the swim, almost 4 minutes.
Interesting here too, you see Moffat putting her socks on. It'll save her time later in her second transition, and she's not in a rush, which is why she's taking the time to do it now.
So Emma Moffat, she's in a transition. It will be a reasonable wait before we see the next woman into this point.
Dry feet are easier to put into your bike shoes, and she'll neatly get out onto the road by having those socks on now, Matt.
And whilst Moffat is out on the bike, getting herself settled in, back in transition, the second of the women is just about to claw her way out of the water. This is Kim Jenke, almost 4 minutes behind.
That's right, man. This equates to almost 2.5 kilometres on the road, so Moffat will be out of the gardens by the time she even gets on her bike.
With a weekend jam-packed of activity for the 1,500 competitors, there's not much time to shop, so the Ironman Partners Village will come to them. A chance to take a look at some of the latest technology available to make that grueling event just a little bit easier. Or perhaps inject a fraction of fun into the event. What is clear is that it's not only the athletes that will be getting a workout, so too will the plastic. And we'll get back into the racing after this. Once the commercial centre of the town when Geelong was a wool shipping port, this area was transformed in the mid-1990s into a fine waterfront precinct with parklands, the popular Bay Walk, along with new restaurants, apartments and hotel accommodation. Today, it hosts the start of the race. A huge contingent of age groupers have flocked to the Geelong waterfront to take on the elements and challenge themselves against the course. Among them is Kylie Jones, the mother of twin boys. Kylie has twice been stricken with breast cancer. She's managed to get the better of that. Can she get the better of this course?
With no family history of breast cancer, it came as quite a shock. So, just something I really wasn't expecting at all. The first time, lots of tears. And then it was a case of, well, just do what I need to do and get on with it, which is what I did. And then 5 years later, I was faced with it again. It's very difficult to see your parents upset, and although they tried to keep it from me, at times, we'd all be in tears together, and it's, very, very difficult. I took up triathlons because I could, because it was something that I could do for me. It's not only a physical challenge, but a mental challenge as well. And it just takes your mind off the negative aspects of everything that you've been through and puts a positive spin on it.
Now out onto the bike, this is Clayton Fattel making his way through the Geelong Gardens.
Yes, he's almost got himself bent double in that position. Great aero position, important for today, Matt.
He's really monstering a big gear at this point, isn't he, Clayton Fattel?
Truly trying to push his advantage home out of the water, which he knows he's got a gap, over a minute to Crowe.
Here's a reminder of what they're confronted with on the bike. It's 90 kilometres in total, 2 laps of a 45-kilometre course, and it's a technical one. The most difficult part is along Port Arlington Road, but they have plenty of twists and turns. The wind will also be a major factor as it comes in off the bay. Once they get back into Geelong, they get a slight psychological relief from the difficulty of the course, but out on that open road, it is challenging. This is James Sear, who sits in second position, strong swimmer. He's normally very aggressive on the bike. The conditions, they are tough. It's a headwind at this point for James Sear.
He's adopting the praying mantis style and moving now to James Hodge, who in his, again, neat time trial position.
Meanwhile, with a commanding lead in the women's race, it's Emma Moffat.
I have a lead from the swim, and I want to progress on that, I guess, by the time I get off the bike. So I'm going as hard as I can and focusing on the whole 90k, not just little sections.
And the whole 90k is tough. In second position for the women, this is Jenke.
Still got a huge amount of time to make up on Moffat, who's time trialling like a demon.
Nutrition all important. She's got to make sure she stays on top of it. James Sears looks across the shoulder, and it's Hodge who is closing in. Hodge is super strong on the bike. In fact, recently, he's been training with Richie Port, who was critical in the Tour de France victory last year with Chris Froome. So for Hodge, this is his opportunity.
Yeah, and look, for Jimmy Sear a chance to put in some nutrition, and he'll take the advantage of having someone pass him. It's actually quite useful.
This is the second group on the road, the blue colours. That's Brett Carlefeld. Just behind him is Casey Munro. It's then Peter Robinson at the front, Courtney Atkinson.
Yeah, he's got a really, again, an interesting praying mantis style. You can see that Crowley's come to the front of the group in the turnaround, and he'll be looking to make up about the minute gap that they've still got at the 30k mark of the bike.
Here is a very comfortable looking Emma Moffat.
Yes, and she's moved to the time trial bike this try at Geelong, and she looks uber smooth. You can see that her seat height is right, and she's looking fantastic. Moving on now to the men, where you've got a very worried looking Clayton Patel looking over his shoulder.
That's Clayton Patel, who leads for now at least. What a lonely old road when you can look over the shoulder and see your rivals quickly closing in. That's James Hodge about to get on terms with Clayton Patel.
Yep, and that's the hardest part of the course. It's a very, very steep hill, and those athletes will be pushing heart rates 190s and above.
Here's the chasing group, Peter Robinson. He just goes through. This is Craig Alexander, three-time winner of the Wine Ironman. Clayton Patel, he looks like he's starting to fade.
Yeah, he'll have some residual fatigue from last week's half Ironman effort, but hopefully he can slot in here and actually recover and take in some nutrition.
In the black colours, that's Casey Munro. Used to race as a professional cyclist for the Rafa team and the Drapac squad, so this should be his strong leg.
It absolutely should be, and we can see Tim Reed on screen now. Again, pushing a disc and pushing a good gear. But the turnover here of Hodge is fantastic.
Well, Hodge, he's juggling studying radiology with competing in triathlons. It's a tough balance to make.
Yeah, look, I think it helps them to organise their lives around training. Tell you who's organised, and that is Emma Moffat. She is pushing a really, really neat gear there. And again, all important in the headwinds to have high turnover, Matt.
She's in a class of her own. You can see that her shoulders are barely moving. Technique is perfect. This is Hodge now at the halfway point of the bike leg. 45 kilometres covered, 45 remaining. At least this breaks up the monotony of those long, open, lonely roads.
Certainly does. And also, you get a good look at where other competitors are. You can see there Hodge looking over and knowing that he's around 500 metres up.
The Foreshore Fun Run brought out the community spirit to raise valuable funds for local charity partner Give Where You Live. People dressed in blue to try and win the prizes for the best dressed. Others just wore blue to show that they were supporting the charity to give locally and look after those near their home who are in need. Some ran the 5 kilometres, others walked, and some had to crawl across the finish line. Botanic Gardens is the second oldest public gardens in Victoria, with the site being selected by Governor Latrobe in 1848. The exposed site of 200 acres with bay frontage and little vegetation has been transformed during the past 150 years to become Eastern Park and the Geelong Botanic Gardens, which the athletes are racing through today. Let's now go and meet the defending champion Emma Moffat as she enjoys the historic carousel.
Doing the 70.3, I did it last year as well, here down in Geelong. It kind of is the end of my base phase, so I've done a lot of the longer training, so I think just to be able to break that up with a race kind of motivates me a little bit more in training and gives me something to focus on.
And while Emma is a world-class athlete, she's also a world-class shopper.
But I've never been to a Commonwealth Games before, so I guess it's a little mini Olympics, so I think to go well there would be a great feeling. So that's definitely my first priority for the year. And then, also trying to round out the series. It's a long year. It's 5 races now that count. So, getting another world title would also be a great achievement, but definitely very hard.
The lighter side of Emma Moffat, this is the more serious side as she's building up a lead of almost 10 minutes on her closest rival.
Yes, she's the dominant athlete today.
Back to the men's, this is Hodge who's leading. He's in the headwind section at this point, but his rivals are closing in. Reid and Alexander aren't too far behind. Here comes Tim Reid making his way past Craig Alexander.
Yeah, like I said to you earlier, Matt, they'll be using those passes strategically because you do get a slingshot advantage. You can see Crowe is still quite comfortable, although he's pushing around 330 or 340 watts into this headwind.
Nice moment for Tim Reid. He's about to catch Hodge. Reid goes to the front, who declares that his childhood hero was Craig Alexander, who's now behind him.
It'd be the dream come true for him to be working in concert with Crowe, and as we call him, it's his nickname. And you can see Reid's also technically very proficient around that corner. It's a sweeping turn, and it's closely followed by both Crowe and Hodge, with Peter Robertson in tow in fourth.
This is reality for one of the age groupers about to be caught by our leading male athlete Tim Reid. And Craig Alexander is also bursting up the climb.
Now, you need to be extremely organised as you come through the Endura hydration station, and that's what Craig Alexander will be thinking about as he's going up this hill. What water bottle to grab, whether it be water or will it be sports drink.
So what's it going to be? Water!
My whole thought process on the bike was to keep the pace fairly controlled, hydrate and fuel properly, but make it a very honest bike ride. And I knew it would be, with the wind just gusting up to 70-odd kilometres an hour. I knew it would be a war of attrition on the bike, and that's exactly what I was expecting.
Craig Alexander, the man of experience, he's in second position on the road. What would be going through the mind of Tim Reid with his childhood hero chasing him down?
He'll be worrying about, can we get a gap so I can make sure I get on the podium? And I'm sure that he'd be scared of Crowe and what he could do to him on the run. Also, he'd be a bit scared of what's happening inside those budgie smugglers he's wearing.
And a brief conversation as well with Craig Alexander, perhaps a few words of encouragement for Tim Reid, looking to keep some company on the remainder of this bike leg as they work their way through the age groupers.
Yeah, so they're working as a team, whereas Emma Moffat is by herself. And now she still can't switch off, even though her main competitors are 5 or 6 kilometres behind her. She needs to focus on her pacing, her nutrition, what her heart rate is. So actually, she needs to look within inside herself and make sure she doesn't have a meltdown moment like we've seen many times before from people leading by a huge stretch.
It's an important race for Emma Moffat. Kim Jenke is in second position. She has been riding very well. 60 kilometres per hour, the tailwind slightly downhill. Craig Alexander with Tim Reid. Regardless of the conditions, 60 k's an hour on a push bike is fast.
It's absolutely hammering. Peter Robertson looks hammered though. He actually is battling into that headwind. And James Hodge is also losing ground, which again is just part of holding on until you get to the run, Matt.
Reid and Alexander coming into transition. This is the all-important one. They're about to start running.
Yes, so T2, again, it's about organised thought patterns. They will have done lots of mental practice while they're at home. You take your helmet off after you've wrapped your bike, and then you've got to pull your running shoes on and get out of transition as quickly as possible without forgetting anything.
So it was Reid who was the first off the bike, but it looks like it might be Alexander who was the first out into the run. And it is. No panic, nice and calm, and he gets through quickly, straps the number on. Alexander is leading the charge.
He's done it hundreds of times before. Hodge, again, you can see him going for this speedy dismount, and he's just getting before that dismount line and getting into T2.
So 1 minute and 23 seconds for Craig Alexander in transition, 4 seconds faster than Tim Reid. This is a time penalty for Casey Munro.
It's terribly unlucky for Munro because it's a 4-minute drafting penalty. Things can actually close up and you can just be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's using his time wisely though, stretching and hydrating, trying to catch our 2 leaders. But alone, we've got Emma Moffat, who's just done a fabulous 90-kilometre individual time trial. Peter Robertson in 4th place, not rushing through transition number 2. But here comes Moffat, dismounting right at the line, as you would expect from a professional like her.
The dual world champion, she almost has the bike rack to herself. One of the women who have pulled out, her bike is already in there. But Moffat, all on her own, no need to panic. This is a problem. Kim Jenke, what happened?
Pedestrian walked across in front of me coming down the hill at 60k an hour. So, and it's me, yeah.
How are you?
I can't put any pressure on my bike. I've got that, my shoulder is killing me. So, hoping to get in here, put my runners on and go for the run. So,
to my eye, that looks deformed enough that it would be a fractured elbow.
From the elites, let's meet some other inspirational competitors. In amongst the age groupers, the retired American couple, Debbie and Hartley West. After discovering the sport of triathlon in their 50s, it has now become a major part of their lives. More importantly, it has brought an already loving couple even closer together. We caught up with them on the eve of the race.
Triathlon's a lifestyle, and I think when we think about our future, we want to live healthy, and the quality of our life is important. I mean, you know, something could happen to either one of us tomorrow that we can't predict.
It gives us something to, you know, a goal to work towards together, and we love to travel. We really, really enjoy each other's company traveling, and it just combines those two things. And yeah, I think actually the communication is better. We communicate more, I think, than sitting in front of the TV, you know, and every night, and it's just wonderful.
I'm just very fortunate that I'm healthy and I'm able to do this, and my competition is thinning out, so I'm enjoying that.
It's true. We're trying to outlive our competition.
Yeah, I wind up on the podium now where I never did before, so that's encouraging. That keeps me going.
We'll be following the fortunes of Debbie and Hartley throughout the race. And at the other end, it's the IM kids. Mitch is a guy who grew up in Geelong, the sport you love. How heartwarming is it to see these kids in amongst it?
Look, it's just fantastic to see kids getting into this kind of activity early in their sporting careers. I mean, the Iron kids of today are the Iron men of tomorrow. I guess from a health professional perspective, it's great to see kids being blooded into cardiovascular exercises early in their lives.
They swim for roughly 5 minutes, they ride their bike for 10, and then they run for another 5, dismounting at just the right point, but they get to go down the red carpet. 150 kids making their way across the finish line where a medal awaits for them. Let's hope in the future we see them in the big one.
What motivates me now is what has always motivated me, which is just to be the best athlete that I can be. It's a commitment I made in the beginning when I was a uni student, and I was a late starter in the sport, and all I ever said I wanted to do was fulfill whatever potential I had and be the best athlete that I could be. Now, one thing my dad always said to me was just do your best. That's all you can do. Do your very best. And in a sport like ours, that's not just on race day. That's the preparation and everything that goes into it, and that's something that fits well with my personality, because I like to prepare well and do things the right way, and I don't let things go easily. If I put a lot into it, I recognise the sacrifices that the people around me have made, and so I can always dig that little deeper. Disrespecting the people around you and yourself to sell yourself short and not give 100% all the way to the line. Sometimes that's a first place, sometimes, things don't go your way, and you might get a second, a third, a fifth, a 12th, a 20th, and the effort always has to be 100%, though, I think. Even with a lot of world titles on the mantelpiece, you're faced with different challenges in races. You've got more demands on your time now, so you don't prepare as physically as well, and you have to find different ways to overcome, and I just love that jigsaw and that challenge.
And we're back in transition with the women. This is Lisa Marigon making her way out onto the run.
You can see she's a bit proppy after having biked so hard.
And the battle is on for the minor placings. This is Julia Grant now coming into transition, along with Jessica Fleming. Those two, well, they're effectively together. They're 2.5 minutes behind Marigon. And in 5th place is Rebecca Hoskey, who's making her way towards transition. The battle for those spots on the podium is still very tight in the women's race.
And of course now in the men's race, Crowe has made his move. Craig Alexander has opened a gap up on Tim Reed. On this downhill section, the turnover of the two athletes was significantly different. You can see Crowe high pace.
The all-important final leg is the 21-kilometre run. Starting down in Geelong, it makes its way up into the eastern park towards the Botanic Gardens. It's anything but flat. A few laps through the gardens. The wind will also be a major challenge, particularly as they make their way along the foreshore. And smooth, comfortable. This is the normal style of Emma Moffat. The head does bob around a little, but she looks composed.
She does look composed, but also she's moving very quick, even though it's turned into a training day.
Craig Alexander is also moving quickly.
Well, I was fortunate to get off the bike in the lead with Tim, and I wasn't thinking about racing head-to-head with him. He's such a good runner. I thought, once again, knowing the conditions and with my experience, it was more about me doing the things that I needed to do and settling into a pace that I felt comfortable with and making sure I filled my body. So that's exactly what I did. That was foremost in my mind.
We so often speak of the wind on the bike, but the wind on the run is just as important.
It certainly is. It can turn things into a death march, but also you need to use it when you've got it to your back.
This is Rebecca Hoskey. She's moving her way up through the field, but it is still Emma Moffat with a commanding lead at the head of the race.
I'm running. I'm not really feeling that good running. I don't think that I'm running very fast, but I have no one to have a measure from, so I don't really know what I'm doing. In my head, I'm just one foot in front of the other. Keep going. It was a bit of a death march, but yeah, and during the whole run, I had no idea where anyone else was.
Craig Alexander now at the front. Emma Moffat claiming she doesn't know what she's doing. I think she's got it under control. She knows exactly what she's doing.
She does, and she's raced triathlon so much, but the endurance-type format is new to her. Crowe, meanwhile, showing great form running along the Geelong foreshore here, and Tim Reed, not quite so easy.
This is Rebecca Hoskey. She is working her way through the field. She got off the bike sitting in 5th position. She's now up to 3rd, and she's running strongly.
Now we've got Carterfeld coming up to pass Hodge, and you can see that Carterfeld, even though it's a steep uphill, encouraging his fellow professional.
And Hodge acknowledging that encouragement from Brad Carterfeld, a representative for Australia at the Olympic Games at Olympic distance. Stepping up to the longest distance here with the 70.3. He's about to make his way through the Enduro hydration station, calling for water, trying to cool down. It is a hot, humid day.
You can see there he's in 3rd position now. He's grabbing Coke. He's also cooling himself off with sponges. Critical to get the core temperature down. Running uphill though, Emma Moffat still, again, we talk endlessly about turnover, but she does look fantastic.
15 kilometres to race for Emma Moffat, a few kilometres further back down the road. This is Lisa Marigon now. She's in 2nd position, but for how much longer? Because the reports coming through that Hoskey is closing in, as Peter Robertson is also doing. He works his way to 4th. There's been a lot of encouragement for Hodge. I'm not sure he's really enjoying it, though.
No, certainly not. And look, no shame in being passed by a 3-time world champion in Peter Robertson.
He said at the end of the Hawaiian Ironman last year, Craig Alexander, that might be it. The Ironman distance is done for him. I don't think he's finished.
Yeah, I hope he's not finished, but Crowe will be absolutely now thinking, okay, I've got a 2-minute advantage. I've got 7 kilometres to run. I'm not going to lose 15 seconds per K. Tim Reed will also be making those calculations.
And now we turn our attention to the Enduro hydration station once again. Craig Alexander showing us just how hot it is. TV does not do the conditions justice.
Absolutely not. I mean, you can just see he's thrown 6 cups of water over his head. It's all important to cool the head. A lot of blood flow goes there, and so cooling down is effective.
Tim Reed is still holding on to 2nd. Let's catch up with some of the age groupers. And amongst them, Mitch, we get all shapes and sizes.
Absolutely. Our professionals doing it for a living. These guys are doing it for fun.
And those who are doing it for fun, Deb and Hartley West, they're racing against each other. And so far, making their way out of the swim, looks like Deb might have her husband's measure.
Swim was rough. The swim was a treat. Roller coaster, loved it.
Oh, rough as anything. Oh, yeah, horrendous. I think I've swallowed half the ocean. Just keep your head above water. Stay out of everyone's way. Just get it done.
She is getting it done. Kylie Jones, what an inspirational story. She's beaten breast cancer twice as Deb is trying to beat her husband, Hartley. As for our two race leaders, Emma Moffat and Craig Alexander, let's get to meet the lighter side of them. Who would play you in a movie of your life?
Hard, but maybe Cameron Diaz. Don't look like her, but anyway.
Morgan Freeman. I love his voice. He's got a great voice.
What was the common theme of your school reports?
Maybe Emma needs to apply herself more and maybe back off the chatter.
That I needed to talk less and listen more.
The best place to holiday?
I love exploring new places. Recently I went to New Zealand, South Island. That was amazing.
What superpower would you like to have?
Personally, I'd love X-ray vision, but my son loves Spider-Man, so I think I'd impress him if I could shoot spiderwebs out of my hand.
Alexander leads the men's race. It's Tim Reed who sits in second position. Mitch Anderson, can he be headed from here?
He certainly can't. He's running along the foreshore. It's certainly cooled off with that bruise in his face. And again, he'll be focusing on nutrition. Tim Reed, on the other hand, will be worried about what's coming behind him.
He's fighting to hold on to second place because less than 2 minutes behind is Brad Carlefelt, who is such a strong runner and is closing in. Reed has had a big day in the office, out in front all day long with Craig Alexander. Speaking of out in front all day long, she led from the first stroke in the swim. Emma Moffat with more than a 10-minute advantage in the women's race.
Yes, look, it's a wire-to-wire win for Emma Moffat, and it actually allows her now to focus on the Commonwealth Games without having to worry about having to qualify for the World Championships in Mont-Tremblant.
So it's an automatic qualification for the World Championships for Emma Moffat.
It almost looks like it's a water fight in there. There's so much water being thrown over heads, whereas Rebecca Hoschke is still pushing hard in second place.
This is a fight. She's moved up to second. She's managed to get past Lisa Marigon, who's now fighting to hold on to a spot on the podium. Whilst Craig Alexander at the front, well, he enjoys the waterfront. Tim Reed, though, you can see the difference in technique. Reed is really labouring.
He's had to go to the well to maintain this podium or second position, and so the quads will be burning. There'll be cramps forming from dehydration, so it's a really tough stage of the race.
Moffat, she won here last year, but this is the first year that it's been officially labelled as an Ironman 70.3 event, and that's a big step in the career of Emma Moffat.
Still checking over the shoulder. He's going to have a stiff neck by the end of the race, I reckon, Tim Reed.
There's plenty of high fives as Craig Alexander is in no rush to get across the finish line. He will go out the winner of the Ironman 70.3 Geelong Triathlon. Craig Alexander 3 times in Hawaii. He delays a little bit longer. The banner awaits. It's Alexander who finally crosses it. He takes the victory.
He's also taking home the National Long Course Championship, so Triathlon Australia will be giving him another gold medal. Tim Reed coming through in second place. A great performance from him off the back of a big training block over in Hawaii, and he is ecstatic to be behind his mentor and his hero, Craig Alexander.
Big smile on the face for Tim Reed, a fist pump as well. Fighting his way into third, Brad Carterfelt. What a performance to get onto the podium.
I love it here. I mean, I've raced 370.3s and I've won all 3 of them. So I just think it's a good course. You get a good open water swim with some chop. You get an undulating bike. A few technical aspects, but really just a lot of long, straight, open road too that's exposed to the wind. A couple of little hills, some false flats. Today we got a lot of crosswinds, which makes it hard. And then the run's certainly not easy. You know, it's hilly. You're exposed to the wind. You're right on the coastline. You're changing surfaces. You're on the road. Then you're on dirt. Then you're on cobbles. Then you're on wood. Then you're on cinder track. It's a very honest course.
And a great performance by Emma Moffat, who's taken the wire-to-wire read. You can see her. She's absolutely soaking it up. What a great way to start off the 2014 season with a big win in the Paris of the South. It's the Ironman 70.3 Geelong Championship going home with Emma Moffat.
To me, there's always somebody going to be catching me, so I keep my head down and go as fast as I can, and I never really know where the other girls are or what's going on, so I think you prepare yourself for the worst, that they're all really catching you, so I just keep racing as hard as I can, and focus on my race, but also being aware that there could be people potentially catching me. I think that I get to qualify for Mont-Tremblant now, so 70.3, having won the Des Moines race last year, I just had to validate a spot, so I guess there's a little challenge for me at the end of the season to go and race the World Championship 70.3.
The elites have finished. We catch up with some of the age groupers at the finish line after this. The hand-carved wooden carousel is one of only 200 in operation around the world and takes pride of place on the city of Greater Geelong's waterfront. The Carousel Pavilion houses a fully restored 1892 Armitage Herschel carousel amongst other historic items. It's a popular destination for locals and tourists. The moment of jubilation for Craig Alexander. He's done so much. He's conquered the Ironman world. But what next?
Coming up very shortly is Ironman Melbourne. Let's hope that Craig Alexander takes confidence from this win and toes the start line in Frankston.
And let's see how many high fives he's able to give there. It took him a while to get across the finish line in Geelong, but why not soak it up? It was Craig Alexander who went out the winner of the men's race in second position with a breakout performance. It was Tim Reed and Brad Carlefelt in third. A quality podium.
Quality field, 4:06 the winning time. One of the slowest wins because of the abysmal conditions.
It says more about the conditions than it does about the athlete because, as we discussed earlier, arguably Australia's greatest ever triathlete taking out the win. In the women's race, it was Emma Moffat going out the victor, making the transition somewhat from Olympic distance up to the half Ironman, and Carlefelt in third on the podium in the men's race. It really is that meeting point.
We're seeing it more and more. We saw it today. Athletes moving from the Olympic distance up to 70.3 Ironman and achieving great success. Rebecca Hoschke extremely happy with the second place podium finish for her today, behind our champion Emma Moffat.
And in third place it was Lisa Marigon. She rounds out the podium, but Emma Moffat, she really did dominate. She led from the start through to the finish, and at each time check she just extended her advantage. It's a big year ahead for Moffat. She's got the Commonwealth Games on her agenda, but she's managed to get season 2014 off to the perfect start. After the elites were done, the age groupers continued to make their way through, including Supermum Farley Jones. She conquered cancer twice and now she's conquered Geelong. What a great atmosphere.
Absolutely. Finishing is everything for every competitor. It's the most important thing you can do.
And Deb and Hartley Wes, they start together, they finish together.
I feel pretty out of it. The wind was unbelievable. I've never rode a wind like that. It was crazy. It was crazy, really hard. But we did it. I feel, I'll feel something in a minute. I'm kind of out of it.
Did you feel like giving it up at any point?
No, I don't give up.
Did you keep an eye on the time at all? Because you were pretty close to the cutoff.
Oh, they were telling us. They were following us behind saying, no, you got 10 minutes. You got, oh, yeah, we knew. And then we said, aren't you going to, send the time for the win? So, because they were cutting people off, And I don't know. I was just really hoping we'd make it, and we did.
They did make it, and as 1,500 other age group athletes make it through the finish line, on behalf of the entire team, Mitch Anderson and myself, Matthew Keenan, it's goodbye from Geelong.